New Year's Eve started quietly. Too quietly. Ashley said she didn't want a party this year. No group countdowns, no awkward toasts with people we barely knew. Just us. A cozy night in. She even called it low pressure, which felt odd coming from her. Normally, she was the one scouring Pinterest for DIY centerpiece ideas and coming up with themes. Last year it was midnight in the mountains. Fake pine garland, twinkle lights, little paper snowflakes hanging from the ceiling. But this year, nothing. No decorations, no planning, no playlist. She said she just wasn't feeling it. I didn't ask questions. Maybe I should have. I just nodded, told her it sounded nice. A break. We could both use one, I said. She smiled at that. Small and quick, like it hurt to hold. Around 7, she lit a candle and pulled out a bottle of red wine. I was on the couch, flipping through channels, not really watching anything. She walked in, barefoot, wearing my old gray college sweatshirt, the one with the frayed sleeves that she'd claimed years ago. It still had a small stain on the cuff from when I spilled coffee during finals week. She used to tease me about it, said it was authentically tragic. She curled up on the corner of the couch opposite mine and scrolled through her phone like she was checking in on something important. That in itself wasn't unusual. What struck me was how often she kept glancing at the screen between sips of wine. Her eyes weren't aimless either. They were focused, waiting. "You okay?" I asked. "Huh. You've been on your phone a lot." She gave a quick shrug. "Just texting Emily." I nodded slowly. "Is she all right?" "She's not doing great," Ashley said, curling her legs under her. "It's the divorce. You remember her husband's been cheating, right?" I did, vaguely. Emily's life had been kind of a revolving crisis this past year. Always some new emotional catastrophe. A part of me wanted to believe it, that Ashley was just being a good friend. But there was a stiffness in her answer, something rehearsed. And when she mentioned the word cheating, she said it with a kind of detached pity, like it was happening on the other side of a glass wall. I didn't say anything else, just nodded and sipped my beer. By 9 o'clock, the night had fully settled in. We didn't put on a movie, no music, just the two of us sitting in soft silence, broken only by the occasional buzz of her phone. I tried to start small talk, asked if she wanted to play cards or look back at photos from last year. She smiled again, but it felt like a pacifier. "Maybe later," she said. "I'm just kinda in my head tonight." That was the second red flag. Ashley's never been the in-my-head type. When something was wrong, she talked. Whether it was the wrong kind of lettuce in a takeout order or some passive-aggressive comment from her boss, I heard about it. But tonight, she was quiet. Too quiet. I got up around 11:15 and said I needed some air. She barely looked up. "Okay." The backyard was calm, still. Cold enough to make my breath fog, but not unbearable. I stepped out onto the deck and leaned against the railing. The neighbors' lights blinked red and green through their frosted windows, muffled laughter floating faintly through the still night. Then I heard it, her voice through the sliding door, which I'd left cracked open behind me. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. "He's still outside," she said. Her voice was soft, lower than usual, and asterisk mate in a way that made my skin crawl. Then, "We have a problem." I didn't move. I don't even think I blinked. My body just froze, anchored to the railing like if I turned around, it would all vanish, like I had imagined it. But I hadn't imagined the tone. It was real, and it wasn't a tone she ever used with Emily. I stood there in the cold for another minute, maybe two. I wasn't sure what to do. Was I going to confront her? Walk back in and ask who she was talking to? Demand to see her phone? Then I heard the ding of a new message. I turned and stepped quietly back into the house. She was sitting cross-legged on the couch, phone in hand, screen angled slightly away from me. But she looked up the second she heard the door slide. Her eyes went wide for a split second, just a flicker, and then she quickly dropped the phone to the cushion beside her. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did. The preview from the message still lingered on the lock screen before it dimmed. It wasn't from Emily. It said, "We have a problem." Same exact words I just heard her say. And the name at the top of the notification wasn't Emily. It was Owen. A name I didn't recognize. I walked slowly back into the room. My heart felt like it was thudding behind my eyes. She grabbed the remote and unmuted the TV like nothing had happened. "You were gone for a while," she said. "Everything okay?" I forced a nod. "Just needed to clear my head." She smiled, practiced, tight. "Want some more wine?" "Sure." She got up, poured the last of the bottle into my glass, then kissed me on the cheek. Felt like kissing a stranger through a curtain. We sat in silence as the clock ticked toward midnight. She leaned her head against the couch cushion and pulled the blanket tighter over herself. I kept glancing over at her, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering if I should say something. Ask her who Owen was. Ask why she lied. Ask what she meant by, "We have a problem." But I didn't. I just watched her. Took mental **TS of every tiny movement. How she pulled at the sleeves of the sweatshirt. How her nails tapped the wine glass. How she checked her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, then tilted the screen away from me like muscle memory. When the countdown began, she looked over and smiled. That same small smile, like a photo in a frame. 3, 2, 1. We clinked glasses. Happy New Year. Neither of us said anything after that. I pretended to yawn and said I might call it a night. She nodded and said she'd stay up just a little longer. I walked upstairs slowly, my legs suddenly heavier than they should have been. Every step felt like I was walking deeper into something I couldn't see the end of. As I brushed my teeth, I thought back to all the signs I might have missed. The sudden interest in privacy. The way her phone never left her side, even in the bathroom. How she had changed her lock screen photo. Once it was us at the lake. Now it was some aesthetic *T of a tree in winter, bare and cold. It was subtle, but it was there. Something had shifted, and now I couldn't unsee it. That night, I lay in bed listening to her footsteps downstairs. The low hum of her voice. A laugh, faint, muffled, not meant for me. Then quiet. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling. The phrase playing on loop in my head like a broken film reel. "We have a problem." After that night, nothing felt real. I woke up the next morning to the smell of pancakes. She was already in the kitchen. Spatula in one hand, phone in the other, laughing at something she read. When she noticed me, she smiled. "Morning, sleepyhead." I stared at her like she was a stranger who had walked into my home and borrowed my wife's skin. I nodded and said, "Hey," but the word tasted wrong. We ate in silence. She asked if I wanted to go for a drive later, maybe visit her sister, maybe not. I mumbled something about needing to finish up work. She shrugged, like she didn't care either way. Then she went back to texting. Over the next week, I started noticing things I had ignored before. Little things, mostly. Small, explainable changes that wouldn't mean anything if you weren't already suspicious. She started going on morning runs. That sounds normal, even admirable, except Ashley had always hated the cold. And I mean hated. If it dropped below 60, she'd bundle up like we lived in Antarctica. So why, all of a sudden, was she out jogging in 38-degree weather? The first time, I let it go. The second time, I asked, "You sure you're not freezing?" She laughed and said, "Nope, helps me clear my head." She'd come back after 30, 40 minutes. Barely out of breath. Not even a drop of sweat. Makeup still on, hair too perfect. No signs of exertion. I didn't say anything, but I logged it in the back of my mind. Then came the glasses. I found them on the kitchen table one evening, black, stylish, obviously not mine. They were men's glasses. When I picked them up, I saw a faint smudge on the left lens. A fingerprint. She was in the other room when I called out, "Hey! Whose glasses are these?" She poked her head around the corner. "Oh, plumber's." "The plumber." "Yeah. He came by last week. Remember?" I nodded slowly. "You mean the one who was here for, 5 minutes?" "Maybe he forgot them." I said nothing, but I remembered that plumber. He was balding, older, didn't wear glasses. I'd seen him squint at his invoice before he handed it over. Still, I didn't press. Not yet. Then came the phone password. We used to share everything. Phone screens were left open. No lock screen, no secrets. But suddenly, her phone was locked. New passcode, new facial recognition. I asked her why. She said it was for work. Our team's cracking down on security stuff, she told me. Can't have personal devices unprotected. She worked in interior design, not defense. But again, I let it slide. Then a new Spotify playlist appeared on her account. One I'd never seen before. It was called Move On. I listened to it when she wasn't home. All breakup songs. All sad. Slow ballads about letting go, starting over, finding yourself again. Every single track was something we'd never listened to together. It wasn't our kind of music. And yet, there it was, updated daily. I stared at the screen like it would confess something if I just looked hard enough. Around that time, she started changing how she dressed. It was subtle at first, darker clothes, more eyeliner, colder colors. At first, I thought it was a mood thing. Winter can get to people, especially her. But she started wearing dresses again, too. Ones I hadn't seen before. A black lace one with a deep neckline. A tight, plum-colored slip that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Always paired with perfume. Not the soft floral she used to wear, but something spicier, sharper, something new. I asked her one day, trying out a new look? She smiled. I just wanted a change. Why now? She shrugged. Don't know. I'm just evolving, I guess. Evolving. That word stuck in my head for days. One night, she left her laptop open on the dining table. She was upstairs, showering. I wasn't planning to snoop. Honestly, I wasn't. But then a notification pinged in the corner of the screen. Just one word. Owen. And under it, did he see anything? My stomach dropped. I didn't even have time to read more before the message disappeared. I closed the laptop slowly, like it might explode. I just sat there for a long time, breathing, thinking, Owen. That name. A week ago, I'd asked her about it. We were watching TV, or rather, the TV was on, and she was scrolling through her phone. I saw a message flash across the top. Thanks for last night. Let's do it again soon. Owen. I asked, who's Owen? She didn't flinch. New designer on our team. You said they weren't hiring. She blinked. Oh, it's a freelancer. Temporary. I nodded. She smiled like the topic was closed. But I couldn't close it. Because the Owen I just saw wasn't talking about mood boards or layout revisions. He was talking about secrets. About me. It was all starting to form a picture now. Her early morning jogs. Her breathless laughter through the wall when she was texting Emily. Her new style. Her new scent. Her locked phone. The foreign playlist. The glasses. Owen. Pieces I had tried to pretend didn't fit together. Now they made perfect sense. I was the last to know. But I was finally starting to see it. She told me she had a business dinner. Said it was with the team, part of a year-end wrap-up. Nothing fancy, just dinner and drinks. I played along. Smiled. Nodded. Even asked what she was wearing like I was still part of it all. She walked into the bedroom in a new black dress I'd never seen before. Tight-fitting, high-slit. Her lipstick was deep red, the kind she usually saved for anniversaries or weddings. And the perfume. God. I hadn't smelled that scent since our 5th anniversary. The one she said was too expensive to wear casually. You look nice, I said. She turned in the mirror, adjusting her earrings. Thanks, she said, then kissed me lightly on the cheek. Don't wait up, okay? I said I wouldn't, and I didn't, because I already knew exactly where she'd be. 2 weeks earlier, she'd shared a calendar with me for a project she was working on. Something she claimed would help me know her schedule better. I don't think she remembered that I still had access to it. Most days were filled with meetings, mock-up reviews, and consultations with clients. But tonight, there was a simple event at 7 p.m. titled Dinner Jameson Group, Table for 4, Bellevue Room. The Bellevue was a boutique restaurant downtown. In asterisk mate lighting, reservation-only seating, custom menus. The kind of place you took someone you were trying to impress. Or seduce. I've been planning this for a while. Quietly. Carefully. It wasn't revenge I wanted, not exactly. I just wanted the truth. And I wanted to see it with my own eyes. A month ago, I installed a discreet camera above the restaurant entrance. I told myself it was paranoia, that it was temporary, that I'd uninstall it once my suspicion faded. But it never faded. So that night, at 6:30, I sat in my car 2 blocks away, parked under a broken streetlight, watching the feed from my phone. The app was simple. One tap and I had a clear view of the Bellevue's glass doors, the valet stand, the gold-plated handle that gleamed under warm lighting. At 6:54, a cab pulled up, and she stepped out. Ashley, my wife, wearing that black dress, that perfume, that lipstick, and beside her, him, Owen, tall, dark coat, confident stride. His hand immediately went to her lower back as she stepped onto the sidewalk. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. She laughed at something he said. It wasn't the laugh she used with me. This one was easy, free, the kind you save for someone new, someone who hasn't disappointed you yet. He opened the door. They walked in. The camera caught the moment right before it closed, when he leaned in and kissed her temple. Not like a colleague, not like a friend, like a man who had touched her before, like a man who would touch her again. I sat in my car for a long time. My heart wasn't racing. There was no heat in my chest. No anger, no panic. Just clarity. A cold kind of silence inside me that made everything feel sharp. This was it. It was no longer theory or suspicion or connecting dots. It was fact. She was cheating on me. With Owen. The man from the messages. The name on her screen. The phantom figure behind all the little lies. The worst part? She didn't even look guilty. She looked alive. Animated. Like she belonged in that moment with him. Like the version of her that used to smile at me now existed in someone else's presence. And that's when I knew. This wasn't something I could talk her out of. I couldn't win her back. Whatever we'd been, we weren't anymore. That part of us was over. The only thing left to decide now was how it would end. And it would end on my terms. I started the car, pulled away from the curb, and drove with the windows down. The air was biting cold, but it helped. It made me feel something. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table for over an hour, phone in one hand, laptop open in front of me. The footage saved automatically. I watched it again, just once. Enough to memorize it. Enough to make it real. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I waited until 11:38 p.m. When she walked through the door, heels in one hand, hair a little messier, smile already fading. "Hey," she said. "You're still up?" "Yeah," I said. "Just catching up on stuff." "Dinner ran long," she offered. I nodded. She walked into the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. "Long week," she said almost to herself. "Was Owen there?" I asked. She froze. Barely. Just a flicker. A microsecond. Then she turned slowly. "Yeah. Him and Dana from accounting." "Nice." She took a sip. "Why?" "Just curious." Her eyes flicked toward me, looking for clues. I gave her none. She came around the island and kissed me on the forehead. "Thanks for trusting me," she whispered. I didn't answer, because she was right. I had trusted her. And now I didn't. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't ask more questions. Didn't demand answers. She would only dress up in new lies. I let her kiss me on the forehead. Let her crawl into bed and pretend nothing happened. I heard her breath steady as she drifted off to sleep. It didn't matter anymore. The performance was hers, not mine. Because while she was busy rewriting our history with someone else, I was already planning the final chapter. I waited until morning. She left early, said she was heading into the office for a client meeting. I made coffee, waved goodbye. The moment her taillights disappeared down the street, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. Everything was already in motion. Months earlier, during a late night when doubt had started to whisper in my ear, I consulted a divorce attorney. Quietly, no commitment, just information. At the time, I convinced myself it was just a precaution, that I was being dramatic, that Ashley would never. But I kept the notes, the documents. The checklist of what to do if one day became now. And now had arrived. We didn't have a prenup. That fact used to make me proud. Proof of how much we trusted each other. But the truth is, almost everything was in my name. The house, the joint business, the savings, the shares. Because early on, Ashley didn't want to deal with paperwork. She said, "You're better at that stuff." I had always protected us. But now I was going to protect myself. First, I changed passwords, not just the obvious ones. I closed shared storage drives. Moved business ownership into a holding structure I'd set up months ago, just in case. Shifted profits from our account into a new one, secured with multi-layer authorization. Everything legal. Everything clean. Then I started collecting. Every odd message. Every screen capture. The blurry footage from the restaurant door. The audio I'd accidentally picked up when my smart speaker recorded part of her late-night conversation near the living room. The one where she said, "He's not suspicious, but I think we should slow down." Every digital breadcrumb she'd carelessly left behind, I gathered like kindling. And I didn't stop there. She still used the family iPad. Forgot it synced her photos. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, I opened the gallery. A selfie of her in a hotel room mirror. I recognized the curtains. Recognized the dress. But the timestamp didn't match the night she said she was out with Emily. Another photo. A man's coat on the edge of the bed. Owen's face wasn't visible. But it didn't need to be. I printed everything. Organized it in folders. One marked timeline. One marked financials. One marked legal. She made muffins that week. Chocolate chip, my favorite. Played our old playlists like nothing had changed. She started asking if I wanted to go to the lake cabin soon. Just the two of us. Said it might be good to reconnect. I smiled, said maybe. Kissed her on the cheek. All while my lawyer worked in the background. We scheduled a forensic accountant. I transferred shared utility accounts into my name. I had the house appraised quietly. Moved my personal files to an encrypted drive. Opened a P.O. box in case things turned messy. Began researching mediation options to keep things calm. For me, not her. I wasn't being petty. I wasn't being vengeful. I was being surgical. She had chosen chaos. I was choosing precision. Then, one evening, I walked in on her quickly, locking her phone and flipping it upside down. She smiled too fast. Said she was checking Pinterest recipes. I looked her in the eye and said, "I miss when we used to tell each other everything." She froze just a moment, then leaned in. "Me too," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. But her words meant nothing now. They were echoes in a hollow house. I had stopped believing them weeks ago, and now I was almost ready. It started subtly, a shift in tone, a reappearance of old habits, almost like she'd remembered she was playing a part, and had dropped the script too early. She wore my sweatshirt again, the gray one, same one she wore on New Year's Eve, the same one she wore the night she sent him that message. Only now, she paired it with soft eyes and familiar touches, as if the fabric still held some of who we used to be. She made breakfast 2 days in a row. Eggs, toast, even cut fruit the way I liked, wedges instead of cubes. She played the morning news at low volume in the background, like it was 2019 again and the world wasn't on fire. She poured me coffee in the mug that said, "You're my person." The one she got me for our 3rd anniversary. I almost laughed when I saw it, because it was so obvious. This wasn't nostalgia. This was strategy. She felt something shift. She sensed distance. And now she was pulling all the levers she had: memory, comfort, routine, hoping they'd create a version of me too softened to leave. But I'd already left. Not physically. Not yet. But the real part. The part of me that loved her blindly, trusted her implicitly, that part was gone. What was left was observation. Calculations. A quiet countdown. And I was already ahead of her. She started using old pet names again. "Hey babe. Love you. Come sit with me." She'd reach out during dinner and let her fingers rest gently on mine. Sometimes she'd bring up old vacations, mention places we used to go. One night she said, "Remember the cabin? That little trail we hiked after the storm?" When we got stuck in the mud and you carried me? I nodded. We should go back, she said. Maybe, I replied. It was always maybe. I never gave her more than that, because I wanted her to keep wondering, wanted her to feel that gnawing uncertainty. It was a mirror now, a reflection of what she'd been feeding me for months. Silence where there used to be answers. Pauses where there used to be comfort. She wasn't dumb. I'll give her that. She picked up on the shift quickly, which is why she escalated. One morning I walked into the kitchen and saw her holding our wedding album. She had pulled it from the top shelf, the one that required a stool and intention. It was open to the page where we wrote our vows. You remember what you said? She asked. I did. Every word. And now I knew exactly how little it had meant to her. I nodded slowly. Of course. She traced her fingers across the photo. I was thinking we should renew them, you know, as a fresh start. I looked at her, really looked at her. She looked hopeful, but also afraid, like she knew it wasn't working, but couldn't figure out why. That same day, she left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter, right next to the bowl of oranges. It was so obvious it might as well have been a movie scene, like she was waiting for me to notice, to ask, to fight. I didn't touch it, didn't ask, just walked past it and picked up my keys. By the time I got home, it was back on her finger. 2 nights later, she ordered food from my favorite Indian place, set the table with candles, played one of our old playlists, even wore the cardigan she knew I liked, soft blue, big buttons, the one I used to say made her look like home. She stood behind me in the dining room and wrapped her arms around my chest. I miss us, she whispered. I said, me too, but my voice was flat. My arms stayed at my sides, because I knew what this was. This wasn't her rediscovering love. This was her trying to reset the board. But I wasn't playing anymore. What she didn't know was that the folder on my desktop, the one labeled tax receipts, wasn't about taxes. It contained scanned copies of every piece of evidence I'd gathered. Photos, messages, call logs, bank records, everything in chronological order, with metadata, cross-referenced. What she didn't know was that the paper she left out, the one she claimed was a client proposal, was actually a flight confirmation. A weekend trip. 2 tickets. One of them booked under a name I didn't recognize. And what she definitely didn't know was that the exit plan was already written. Not in a notebook, not in a text, but in a 37-page legal document reviewed by 2 separate attorneys. Titled simply, Exit_Final. Doc She led him into the house. Through the side gate. I saw it on camera. Owen holding a bottle of wine, walking like he'd done it before. She met him at the back door in my t-shirt, smiling like she used to smile at me. 10 minutes later, she texted me, "Miss you. I'll make your favorite muffins tomorrow." The audacity made me laugh. I didn't respond. I opened the folder, the one labeled Final, and sent everything to the attorney. Every file, every message, every frame. The documents were ready, assets transferred, accounts locked. At noon the next day, she was served, right at work. No warning, just a clean, cold envelope in front of her desk. She didn't come home that night. The camera caught her stepping barefoot out of a car at Owen's place. Holding takeout. Same dress. Same lie. That's when I knew. She wasn't going to stop. But I already had. 2 days passed. Then she came back, grocery bags, cinnamon candles, fake smiles. I let her pretend. I let her cook. I let her play house. She begged to go to the lake. Said we needed a reset. I agreed. But I was already gone. At midnight on New Year's Eve, I got her message. The same words as before. We have a problem. Only this time I didn't read it. I didn't even hear the notification. Because I was on a balcony in Portugal, glass of wine in hand, watching fireworks with strangers who had no idea who I used to be. I'd blocked her number hours earlier, deleted our photos, cleared the cloud. She thought I was still within reach, but I was long gone. I raised a glass, smiled to myself, and whispered, "No, Ashley, you have a problem."